my gain. And so hopefully, by the end of this, you guys will be able to take at least one thing from everything that I'm talking about and at least have another tool in your tool belt, or just armed with some type of, like Marie said, tip or trick to be able to hire your first virtual assistant or your next one. So a little bit about me real quick. Let's see, I was in the military for 20 years. I just recently retired in February. While I was in the military, I was in IT. I did cybersecurity for the back half of my career. When I wasn't doing cybersecurity, I was a drill instructor and I was training recruits. And it was when I actually took that job that I realized like how much I enjoy training and mentoring and guiding and everything that comes with being a drill instructor. I mean, the yelling and the hazing is awesome. That's super fun. But more than that is like seeing young adults who come in that can barely like shave their face and wipe their own ass. And then like in 8 weeks, they leave with all this confidence and conviction and just like, it's a great experience to be a part of, knowing that I had a hand in being able to shape the future of America. And then, so from there, that's when I kind of realized like I had a pretty good knack for being able to teach and train. And then when I was about 4 years, right before I was about to retire, like I realized after coming out of the drill instructor job, going back into cybersecurity, like I realized like how much I hated being in IT. Because there was nothing that was really satisfying about it. I actually became an IT because I thought like I was going to enjoy like computers and all that. And I realized the only thing I like about computers is the internet. Like I love going on Google and searching for things. But I ended up doing a lot of, I got into the cybersecurity field because I wanted to set myself up for like a 6-figure job when I got out. And then I found Fortune Builders in 2016, which is about 4 years or 5 years before I was going to retire. And from there, they actually, the seed that they planted as an entrepreneur building businesses based off office systems and processes was something that like completely aligned with what I'd been doing in the military for the last 15 years. And so it was an easy transition to go into real estate, into coaching and building the business. And that first year, I ended up actually doing 8 deals. I did 4 rehabs and 4 wholesales. I only did 4 wholesales to make up for my first deal where I lost $12,000 from a septic tank inspection that the contractor that I hired actually told me that the septic was good, wrote it on an official letter, and it was my first deal. And I was like, oh yeah, it looks great. And then he ended up running off with the deposit that I gave him for the materials on the roofing. And when he ran off, I had to bring somebody else in and they were like, what are you going to do about this septic? I'm like, here's my letter. What do you mean? What am I going to do about the septic? It's good to go. And they're like, yeah, no, they're like, they checked down at the city. It was already inspected and marked bad at the city. So we had to replace the septic. That was a $15,000 budget that was a $15,000 mistake that I didn't budget for. So that started my wholesale journey because I had to figure out how I was going to make up all that. That was like all my profit. And I had to pay back my private lenders. So wholesaling was the way to do it. And I busted my ass and we did 4 wholesales in about 3 months, doing bandit signs, doing door hangers, and doing social media. So that was fun. Second year, we did 22 deals. And it was in the second year where I actually started to grow and scale my business beyond virtual assistants. The first year I hired 6 virtual assistants that all did different tasks. And then the second year I actually brought some of those tasks in and I actually hired some people that were local in the US that were on a more consistent basis. And from there, I actually transitioned out of my market, which was in New Jersey at the time. The military had given me orders that second year, and I had to figure out how I was going to run my business virtually. And so like the 3 months leading up to the move is when I like really started building out all the different departments. So marketing, redevelopments, acquisitions, accounts, admin, processing, the whole 9. So my job was just to create and document processes. That way I could hand it off because I was no longer going to be there. And so that was while I was upset that the military was transferring me, it was actually one of the best things that ever happened to my business, because it forced me out of the technician role into the manager and then into the entrepreneur role, just by, using, like, turning my camera on, turning my microphone on, and then just recording what I was doing as I was doing it, and then creating a library of just like different tasks and training. And really to give you an idea of where I'm going with this, and by the end of the training, that's exactly how you hire virtual assistants and you start outsourcing all of this stuff. Is like, you just turn the microphone on, turn the camera on, document how you're doing your processes, make a little library, and that's the best way to hand off those tasks. So
Wait, I'm gonna pause you for a second there because I'm glad you said that a second time, because I think that that's so key, that it's as simple as just documenting what you're doing. Some people ask me all the time, well, how do you analyze a property? How do you do this? How do you do that? And just that tip alone right there, JP, like I can just go into a Zoom meeting by myself, share my screen to myself, and just start talking about what I'm doing so that I can use that to train a virtual assistant later.
yep,
Like,
absolutely.
boom, that's actually genius. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you're doing here. Like, like, I'm not just having a conversation with you. You've like invited all your friends, so that way you don't have to regurgitate it, right? And so it's kind of the same concept. It's like, hey, I don't want to tell you guys what JP said. Just come listen to what he's saying. And the virtual assistant's the same thing. So, so I came to Virginia, and it was awesome because I couldn't go to my projects, which gave me so much time back during my day, and it really gave me a taste of what it was like to be a true entrepreneur in my business. And I got addicted, and so from there it was just like I basically outsourced 90% of my business to either virtual assistants or like people in the States. But it came at a cost, right? And I think that that's the one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs, like, that's their sticking point, is like, either they don't feel like they have the money to hire a virtual assistant, so they keep all the tasks themselves, or they don't want to give that money up even if they have it, and they keep it, and they end up bogging themselves down with a lot of stuff, with 90% of their business that can be outsourced for a hell of a lot cheaper than what your time is worth, or than what their time is worth. So I gave up about, on average, probably about 45% of my profit for every deal in order to have 90% of my profit off of my plate, which is a great exchange of time and money. And I'm sure almost anybody could probably say, yeah, that's you're getting it for half price. So that third year, that was 2018. We thought we were hot shit, and we started getting very confident, and we started making some bad decisions. We did 24 deals that year. 6 of them were losers. We went into a market where we thought that we analyzed correctly, but we missed a very key component, which was like really digging in and trying to figure out like who was buying these properties and who was selling them, and like really digging in. We ended up losing about $230,000 over those 6 properties. Luckily, we were able to turn them into rentals. And then this market, the appreciation that's happened in this market, we've recently sold all 6 of those and made our money back over time. So that was a real, again, just another like kick in the junk. But what it forced us to do at that point was, because we lost so much money, we had to figure out, how the heck are we going to pay back our private money lenders? How are we going to cover these monthly holding costs? Because we had 14 projects going at one point that all had holding costs. And when you lose $230,000, then it becomes extremely hard to figure out how you're going to cover everything. And so once we turned those 6 losers into rentals, we were like, oh, let's pick up more rentals, because that'll give us cash flow to cover some of this monthly expense. And then we just went bananas on rentals. So over the next 9 months, we ended up picking up 48 doors, just using the same systems that we were using picking up flips. We just literally changed the exit strategy, lowered the ARV by 10%, because on average, that's what the rentals were appraising for, were 10% less than what they were selling for if they were fully fixed up. And then reducing our rehab costs from $50,000 on a flip to $25,000 on a rehab, which was amazing because we were still competing against all the same flippers that were using the flip model. And we were literally being able to like cut our cost in half and come up and win all of these properties and turn them into rentals. And we didn't realize that up until that point, we didn't realize like how much gold was in our rental market. Our rental market had appreciated 30% in the last 2 years. And so the rents it was like almost 2% what we were getting in rents for what we were buying these properties for. So that was an amazing, all these things where we feel like we get kicked and we're falling down and like people are just throwing salt on the wound. We were able to turn into something that allowed us to like grow and scale our business, either internally or like going a different direction. So that was pretty cool. 2019 and 20, we kind of simmered down. We pulled back a little bit and we went for quality over quantity. And then, 2020 happened and it kind of put the brakes on a couple things. And now 2021, we're actually changing markets. We're moving from New Jersey down to Florida because now that I'm retired, that's where we're going to be moving our family. We're super excited. We just bought our house I think it's been 2 weeks now. We bought our house down in Melbourne, Florida. The house is like 10 minutes from the beach, which is where I've grown up my entire life. And so it's going to be awesome to be that close to the beach and then allow my kids to be able to experience the same stuff that I did. So we're super excited. And we already have an Airbnb business down there. We've got a couple of Airbnbs, and now it's just a matter of I'm going to try to go psycho crazy trying to pick up as many rentals as I can because it's a great rental market down there. So that's kind of my background, my experience. I've coached with a couple of different organizations, Fortune Builders I was a mastery coach for about 1.5 years, and then I went to the internet marketing side, and I did Mind Protein coaching for 1 year, and then I took about 1 year off of coaching. And now I coach with another coaching program called Homeschooled by Tarek. It's Tarek El Musa's coaching program. There's only 12 of us, 12 coaches. And so it's a super small, tight knit community. It's pretty awesome. I absolutely love it. And yeah. Actually, when I retired, I picked up a job with Riva Global, doing virtual assistant stuff with Bob LaChance. He wanted me to come over and help him manage some of the stuff. I did that for about 4 or 5 months, and I really realized in that position, like I hate sales, like the direct sales where I'm coming to you. Like Marie, you got one of my emails where I was like, "Hey, looks like you filled out a form about 1 year ago. Do you?" And then like I was talking to you about virtual assistants, and I was like, "Man, this sucks." Like I didn't really like the sales part of it, and so I quickly gave that up, and that's when I went to the coaching. So am I missing anything? I don't know. Oh, I've got a couple of other companies, right? I've got a skip tracing company. So I do Best Skip Tracer is a company that I started in 2020. I've got a social media management company called Social Soaring that I started with my market, like the girl that I brought on and taught how to do our marketing. One of her goals was to start her own company. So I helped her start her own company, and I partnered with her on that for Social Soaring. Gosh, I've got more companies. I just can't keep up with them right now.
Listen, Michelle, he's got a lot of LLCs because when he was coaching for Fortune Builders, they just said, yeah, you can get like 6 or 7 free LLCs. So he's like, I'm forming more businesses.
Yeah. 2020, and they all came in 2020. So I don't know I guess in 2 of them, no, all 3 of them were before COVID even hit. So I guess like I was setting myself up in 2020 to have a big year. Yeah, I'm looking at all my little maroon books. I have 6 maroon books over here.
I was going to ask if it was with NCH.
Yeah, with NCH, but I've actually transferred all of them over to Wyoming through Sherry now. So awesome. You guys have any questions about anything that I've already talked about? Like all the background? I try to keep it short, but there's just so much detail in there.
No, I think it's good, just to hear that journey and to hear all the different ways that you have kind of dabbled your feet in the business and in the businesses that help your business. And Best Skip Tracer really is the best. We use them. So if anybody needs skip tracing, I will shout you out for that.
Yeah, well, no, don't just go to Best Skip Tracer. You have an affiliate link, right? Because if you let them use your affiliate link, they get half off of their subscription by using your affiliate link.
Yes.
So don't just go to Best Skip Tracer.
Go to lizandmarie.com and click on the link for Best Skip Tracer.
There you go.
Affiliate link should be on there.
There you go.
Marie, you can put it in the Facebook group.
Yeah, I will do that. But with that being said, so
No, we need to go to our website.
yeah, but no, let's go back, JP. Let's talk about now how you started with all these virtual assistants. When that decision was made that you had to move to Virginia, I'm assuming that's when you really, you might have had a couple of virtual assistants before then, but I know that the move was the really big push for you. So what are the different tasks that you were outsourcing to VAs? I mean, how did you break it down, right? Not all of us have like a military background that helps us like organize things in such a way. So kind of bring us back through that process and explain a little bit more in detail with the VAs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. And before I do that, I just wanted to see, has anybody in here already hired a VA, or do they currently have a VA? I see a bunch of no's. No.
Just
Marie and I use one.
like on Fiverr.
Huh?
Yeah, but we've used Claire and that other gal.
You have a VA, Dolores? Okay. Is your VA with Riva Global? No, it's from Fiverr or like Upwork.
Okay, there we go. No, I have, it's a virtual assistant company over in the Philippines though.
Okay. Can I ask you to share your experience a little bit? Like what's your biggest takeaway from hiring a VA? Like what's your biggest challenge?
Okay, so actually I was quite concerned about what I was going to be able to have them do when I hired a VA, but what I did is that was most what I was concerned about, having work for them that they would consistently be able to do. And that was my biggest challenge actually, is so when I started having enough leads for them to call, then they were trying to do some leads on their own, trying to find leads. And then trying to keep consistently having leads where they could do the calls. And basically that's what I've tried to stream it down. So I've got consistent leads going to them so that they're just doing cold calling. They're not doing the searching for the leads or any of that information. I have that all for them and they just need to do the cold calling. And so actually that's going very well. The problem that I'm having is the system that I'm using for them to do the call, the dialer. We keep having problem with the numbers coming up with robo warning. And then you have to keep replacing numbers all the time.
What system are you using for your calling?
Call tools.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what we use.
Yeah, call tools. I have problem with that. The numbers always coming up. I mean, I had some numbers that I purchased that I hadn't even used them yet. And then it came up robocall and I'm like, whoa, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So
so there's an alternative to call tools if you're open to looking for a different one. And I know it's probably going to take some learning, but ZenCall, have you used ZenCall? That's a really big another one in the community of real estate investors. Those are the two that I hear the most, is ZenCall and Call Tools.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well, ZenCall and Call Tools. They kept wanting to do Mojo when I first started, and I had no understanding of any of the dialers. And then when I talked to the business owner of the VA, she's like, no, to do Call Tools. They want to use Call Tools. And I'm like, okay, do your staff know how to use Call Tools? They'll learn. Well, yeah, we all had to learn how that worked. Training was a very difficult situation for me as well, trying to get that training. And so actually I had them attend the training with me when I was on the calls and stuff, but training was done on Zoom, but you couldn't have no communication with the instructor. You typed information to them and they typed information back to you, and they just kept going with the training. If you didn't catch it, it's like, well, just figure it out. I get very frustrated with all of that.
So how long have you been with your current VA
Hmm?
company? How long have you been with your current VA company?
Actually, it's been several months already now. I think it was June, I think, since June. So we're about 3 months.
Okay, great. And I think that was a very smart move. I think a lot of what you go through, and I would imagine most people on this call, and I went through the same thing, is like that fear of, okay, I'm going to pay somebody to be working, but what do I give them to do work? And so I think that was a great awareness on your part to say, okay, let's just have them do cold calling, because really I would say, you know, out of all the things that we talked about tonight, the best thing to have a virtual assistant do is generating leads, marketing, right? There's a lot of different things that can be done, but marketing is the lifeline of your business. And the number one, or the key ingredient, I should say, to marketing is consistency. And with everything else that we all do, consistency is one of the hardest things for us as entrepreneurs when we're juggling a job and kids and everything else that we have going on. And so that's the perfect task to give a virtual assistant, especially cold calling of all things, because I don't know about you, but I can tell you I'm not the most qualified person in my business to do cold calling. I actually dread cold calling so much that it feels like unproductive. It like, not even like when I'm doing it, but like even like the hours leading up to having to cold call, like it just I feel so unproductive because it's just like clogging and draining every part of my body. And so I think that's smart. And actually, one of the things that I'd like to share, this is really one of the first shares, is you guys may have seen this before at some point, but there's a really good exercise to kind of wrap your mind around virtual assistants and whether you have the money to do it or not. Which is like finding out what you believe that you're worth per hour, right? Have you guys ever been through that exercise where you tell how much you're worth per hour? And the way that I have my screen right now, I can't see head nodding or not. So I don't mind if you guys come off of mute. I love it when it's interactive. It actually gives me more energy.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So Gail's done it. Anybody else? Has anybody else done that?
No.
No. Do you want to?
It would be nice to learn. That would be great.
Awesome. This is super simple. You guys can do this even when you're like in the shower. This is super easy. All right. So just think about all of the money that you spend on a yearly basis, whether it's rent, gas, everything, all the bills that you have on a monthly basis. So add all that up, and then also add a little bit of cushion on there for you guys to be able to do like some of the things that you want to do, like be able to, like if you have like a bucket list or some dreams of like going on travel or doing something, like add a couple of those in there, and let's come up with like an annual number. Like what would be, go ahead, anybody throw out a number of how much do you need to cover your living expenses and have just a little bit of play money. How much money would you need to make in a year?
100,000.
100,000. All right. That's a good number. Anybody else want to share?
Probably 65.
65. Where do you live?
Arizona.
Yeah. Is the cost of living in Arizona pretty cheap?
No.
Is the price of gas over $3?
Over $3?
Yes.
No.
Oh, you
Well,
guys got it good.
It depends.
Depends on what
If-
part of
$2.99,
Like
right?
303, 309.
Yeah, well, if you put a gas at Costco, then it's $2.95. But yes, it's over 3. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So we'll go with 100,000, Melissa. All right. So the easiest way to do this is to take, there's 52 weeks in a year and there's 40 hours in a week. So if you take 52 weeks times 40, that gives you 2,080. 2,080. All right. So now let's divide your $100,000 that you need to make by 2,080. What's the, what do we get? What's that number?
I got 48. Did I do that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. $48. So that's $48 an hour. If you wanted to make $100,000 in a year, that means that your time is worth $48 an hour. Dolores, how much are you paying your virtual assistant per hour right now?
How much am I paying?
Yes.
I think it's $6.
$6 an hour. All right. So here's what's great about this exercise. If you can find out what your time is worth, $48 an hour, here's how you determine what you get off of your plate. Anything that can be done for cheaper than $48 an hour by somebody else is what you get off of your plate. So that's generating leads, that is talking to sellers, that is running marketing campaigns, that's building out, talking to, people on Facebook, doing your social media, like anything that you can teach somebody how to do that you don't have to pay $48 an hour is what you get off of your plate. Because if you're doing these tasks that can be done for $6 an hour, then what you're not doing is the task that only you can do, which is going out and networking to build your team, raising private money, truly locking down deals that like signing the contracts, because you're going to be bogged down with all of the other tasks that are in your business. And so think about this, like if you're going to be doing $6 an hour tasks, you're going to have a $6 an hour bank account, right? So if you want to have that $48 an hour bank account, you have to be concentrating on only the $48 an hour tasks, which is the very top part of your business that nobody else can do for you. So now as we talk about so I'll share a little bit about my journey real quick. As I went through, the very first thing that I got off my plate was social media. I was about the third month into my business. I went into an internet marketing class and they taught us, first of all, how to hire a virtual assistant. So it was like literally a 12-page document on how to hire a virtual assistant. Actually, I think I might have it. Hold on.
There goes JP, everybody.
Oh, look at this. Hold on. This Mind Protein Internet Intensive. I still have it.
We get notes.
What? You want these notes? I can scan them in and I can send them if you think it'll be helpful for you.
Bonus. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Hiring a virtual assistant. Sweet, here it is. So what I want to show you is the amount of ridiculousness I went through to find and hire a VA. So like here is every single slide. There's 4 on that page, 4 on that page, 4 on that page. And it's like every page takes like 6 days to do. It's ridiculous. So not only do you have to figure out what task you want to get off to your plate, you have to write a job description. Then you have to put that job description on like Upwork or something like that. And then you wait for all of the applications to come in. So you might wait a week. And then now you have to filter through 20 different applications and filter out half of them or whatever you feel like is like automatically a no-go and keep all the other ones. And then from there, you have to send out some more communications to try to like weed out some more. And then eventually you get down to 3. And then you have interviews on Skype and hope that you get the right one. And then after 3 weeks of vetting and trying to find a VA, you hire the VA to do your social media. And then they leave 3 weeks after that because they really can't do what you thought they were going to do, or they're not doing it to the standard that you want, or you just don't know how to train them because you don't know what you're doing. It's like the blind leading the blind and nothing gets done. So that's what I went through probably twice until I was like, yeah, no, this is like, it's taken 6 weeks of my time to hire a Craigslist poster, somebody who can just post on Craigslist twice a day, every single day of the week. I had to figure out how to like get a VPN for them to be able to like make it look like they're in the States so that way they can actually post. So that took me 3 weeks to figure all that out. And that person actually lasted about 9 months of doing Craigslist, and she was doing it for $1 a post. And so it was that was the second time I hired a VA, and that was successful. The first time was my social media person, and it was a disaster. So after the second time of going through hiring a VA, I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. And that's when I reached out into the community and I asked other people like, hey, how are they hiring VAs? And that's when I heard about Riva Global. And so just a little bit about Riva Global. So back in 2016, at the end of 2016, I was looking to bring somebody on for my social media to replace the person that I fired. And the process of hiring a virtual assistant through Riva Global was so much different. The 3 weeks that I spent doing all of the filtering and all of the interviewing, like they do all of that for you. As a matter of fact, I'll share, just because I know, because I was there, I want to share just a tiny bit about Riva Global. Riva Global is the #1 virtual assistant company in the Philippines. They have a wait list from all of the people that want to become a virtual assistant. There's a wait list of about 6 months. Every single one of their VAs has a bachelor's degree or better. They all go through 140 hours of real estate training. So all of the training that you guys have gone through in Fortune Builders or whatever else it is where you consume all your training, they've gone through that probably ×3 before they're even made available for you to be able to interview. And so the quality of virtual assistant that you get is completely different than the quality that you might get by going on and trying to do this yourself. So that in and of itself is worth every penny of the onboarding and everything that Riva charges for their VAs. So I went through that process. It was amazing. They put 2 VAs in front of me. I got to just like Zoom both of them. And I had this person with me that was like, hey, if you don't know what to ask, like, here's the cheat sheet, ask them this. I'm like, well, why would I ask them the questions that you already prepped them for? They're like, no, actually, these questions are totally based off of what you're looking to apply. And I looked at them, I was like, oh, that's a great question. And so it was a lot of like demonstration. So I ended up hiring my first VA with them. I had that VA for almost, it was 18 months. And then I met Jessica, who I brought on board that took over all my marketing. And so I had that VA for 18 months and it was amazing. It was the best hire that I had made for my virtual assistant. So from there, I realized that the social media and the marketing that this person was doing was, I needed another person because I wanted to implement more marketing. So I implemented cold calling and text messaging and a couple of other campaigns with another virtual assistant. So I hired 2 part-time virtual assistants. So
yeah. So JP, just real quick, were they dedicated virtual assistants, like just for you?
So you can either hire a virtual assistant from, so if you're going to go through Riva, right? If you're going to go through Riva, then you can either hire a part-time or a full-time VA. If you hire a part-time VA, then they are working for somebody else, which I absolutely love, because one of the things that I do when like they'll come on, I'm like, all right, what are you doing for your other investor? Like, what's working? Is there something I can implement in my business that is working for them in their business? And so I always do that with my VAs that I hire.
That's a good ninja trick right there.
Yeah. So if you're going if you're going to go with a company like Riva Global, then you can expect that you're going to have to hire them for a minimum of 20 hours a week. But I guarantee you, everybody on this call has at least 20 hours of work that they can get off their plate, because either one, they're not doing it because they don't have enough time, or 2, they haven't thought about doing it because they're so like, people are still stuck in like where they're at that they can't even think beyond where they're at enough to think about all the work that needs to be done. So I always think about this, like if you didn't have a job and you didn't have any responsibilities and you could literally dedicate all your time to your business, do you think that there's enough that you could do on a weekly basis that would keep you busy for at least 20 hours a week? And I would say the answer is probably yes. Whether it's, a lot of it comes back to marketing. If you don't have deals or you don't have consistent deal flow, then you need to market more. And so those are that's the perfect thing to hire virtual assistants for. So right now we currently employ 3 virtual assistants. One is doing all cold calling, one is doing all text messaging, and one is running all of our other marketing campaigns. So like our Facebook outbound, or our for sale by owner outbound campaign. So they spend all 4 of their hours they spend on Zillow, looking at for sale by owners. They go into the rentals section of Zillow, and they're talking to landlords that have a vacancy. By the way, that's an amazing list to attack. In any CRM, you're going to have landlords or absentee owners with vacancy. You don't even need to pull a list from any of those CRMs because they're advertising that they have a vacancy on Zillow and the rental section. Same thing with Facebook Marketplace. They'll go into Facebook Marketplace. They'll look for properties where the pictures or the price would indicate some form of distress. And the same thing on the rentals. They'll go to Facebook Marketplace Rentals and they hit up all the landlords and they just say, hey, listen, I see you have a vacancy. Have you ever considered selling? Because we're looking to buy more properties in the area. And oftentimes you get people that'll say, well, yeah, we've considered selling. Awesome. Let's talk about it. Tell me where you're at. And then you got to grab the 4 things on every phone call that you should grab with a seller. Pop quiz. Let's see if anybody can name the 4 things that you have to grab from a seller that you want to know about it.
The address.
Oh, that's basic, but yes.
That wasn't one of the 4.
Their why.
What'd you say?
Their why. Why do they want to sell? What's going on?
Motivation. Absolutely. Motivation. That's a great one, Gail.
Their price.
Price. Yep. What else?
Their rental history?
Not so much. I mean, I think that could almost be lumped into another topic, which would be, I think somebody just said something.
Time frame.
Time frame is a really good one. That's the other one. And then there's one more. What do we need to know about the property?
Condition.
That's right. So I think that the rental history and condition could probably come into that, or the rental history could go into motivation. So I don't think that that's a bad idea. But the 4 things are condition, time frame, price, and motivation. And so here's something worth writing down if you're taking notes. Through the 5 months that I was with Riva Global, what I saw consistently from the real estate investors that were successful with virtual assistants from the ones that weren't were 2 things. One is lead criteria. You have to understand what your lead criteria is for your business in each one of those categories. So that way the virtual assistant knows whether or not they have a lead that they're going to give you or not. And I can just share with you what our lead criteria is. So that way you guys can have an idea. You definitely don't need to use this, but if it gives you kind of like a baseline, awesome, tweak it for your area. So 3 of the 4 different categories we have lead criteria for. So we'll start with price. So for anchored homes lead criteria, the price is broken down to a cold lead, a warm lead, or a hot lead. And so in our area, Zillow, the Zestimate is freaking spot on for what the ARV would be after we fix it up. So Zillow in our area is perfect. I would imagine Zillow, the Zestimate, is not always accurate depending on where you're at across the country. And so what I would just say for you guys as like a little side note, like find the website that has where their estimated value of the property, find whatever website for you guys is the most consistent on what would be the ARV after it's fixed up, because that's one of your main numbers in your calculation. So you could use Redfin, Realtor, ePraisal is one that I see a lot of people use. ePraisal, so it's just appraisal but with an E in front of it. It's a paid subscription. If RealFlow works, or what's the other one that a lot of people use?
PropStream.
Yeah, if PropStream has like a market value. So just find what works for you and something that you can give your virtual assistant to reference, because the last thing you need for the virtual assistant to do is call you up every single time to find out what the ARV on a particular property is, to find out if it's a cold, warm, or hot lead. So just find a website that is a tool that's really easy for the virtual assistant to be able to reference when they're talking to somebody on the phone. So when you find that, whatever that's going to be, again, I'm just going to say Zestimate because that's what works for us. So cold, warm, and hot. So a cold lead is anybody who wants 75% or more of the Zestimate. 75% of the more of the Zestimate, because there's nothing in there for us. There's like no room in there for us. A warm lead is anybody who wants 65 to 75% of the Zestimate. And a hot lead is anybody who will be willing to take less than 65% of the Zestimate. So basically, if my VA's on the phone and they're talking to somebody, and when they ask them what they're going to sell the property for, if it's 65% or less, that's a hot lead, and they put it right into RealFlow, and RealFlow sends me a message, and then they'll also send me an email that says like hot lead, just like that. The warm lead will also get tagged and sent and put into RealFlow. So will the cold lead. And we still love cold leads because we do hold a real estate license, and we're able to refer those out to other agents and get a referral fee for those. So if you have a license, then referring cold leads is a great way to pay for your marketing campaigns, especially if you have a realtor that's really good at locking down listings and selling property. I mean, it doesn't really take much to sell property in this market, but locking down listings is a skill. So I would just say, like, if you guys are like making a to-do list, like one of the things that you should consider is being able to find an agent that you guys feel confident that can almost step into any listing appointment and lock that listing down. Because if you're an agent, that'll give you the best chance to get a referral fee. If you're not an agent, I want to share with you like how before we became an agent, how we were still able to capitalize on this. So with cold leads, you can still refer those to agents. And the two things that we did was we asked the agent to give us a reduced commission on the deals that we did together in exchange for these retail leads that we were giving them. And then we took it one step further and we said, hey, we're spending a lot of money on these marketing campaigns, and we're coming up with more retail leads than we are hot or warm leads. And so how would you like to split the cost of marketing with us on this deal? And then we'll give you all the retail leads. And so what we ended up shifting to was half of our marketing budget was covered by the agents that we were feeding leads to. So that's just another way that you can capitalize on cold leads, and that's where that right there that's where I see a lot of investors also kind of give up. They're like, all we're getting are these people that want full price. Awesome. Feed a realtor, have them pay for your marketing, or get a reduced commission on your deals. I mean, you can still monetize on those. So that's price. The next one that we have is time frame. And so time frame, it's if they want to sell beyond 30 days, that's a cold lead. So greater than 30 days. 14 to 30 days is a warm lead. So 2 to 4 weeks is a warm lead. And anybody who's like ASAP wants to sell now within 14 days or less, that's a hot lead. All right, condition. So this is another thing that I would recommend you guys. This was something that all the cold callers and the VAs that I brought on, this was something that I had to teach them. This wasn't something that they learned. Even the ones at Riva Global, like they didn't have this system in place. So this is something that we had to teach them, which was we had a condition scale that we like to have them ask. And so basically what they'll do is they'll ask the seller, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the overall condition of your property? 1 being it needs to be condemned, 10 being it's fully, it just got built and it's all brand new. And so the criteria that we put on that is if the seller says a 9 or a 10, then that's a cold lead. If they say 6, 7, or 8, that's a warm lead. And if they say 5 or less, that's a hot lead. And so sometimes what'll end up happening is a seller is like, oh, I don't know how to rate it. Like they don't know how to rate their property, and they definitely don't want to give it a low number because they know what that means for them. There are some sellers that are like, no, this thing's a piece of crap. It's a 3. And you're like, oh, great. Thanks for being honest. I really appreciate that. But a lot of times they won't be able to rate their property. And so what we'll do is the next step will be to go into asking, we don't ask them what the condition of a certain thing is. We ask them what the age of everything is, right? So we always ask the age and never the condition. So how old's the roof? How old are the windows? How old is the AC? How old is the hot water heater? How old is the paint, the floor? Like, we asked them the age because that we can tell it. We can put a condition on that easier than we can let them tell us, oh, yeah, it's all works. It's all in great condition. Awesome. How old is it? Because everything has a service life. So I would say that was something that we taught our VA, was that whole condition situation.
JP.
Yes, sir.
How many times has somebody given you like a 9 or a 10 on the condition? You get there to look at the house and it's a 5.
Gosh, I don't even know. I would have to go back on my notes to see. Typically, if someone says, a lot of these are like correlated, right? So typically if someone says 9 or 10, they're probably looking for retail, right? And so that's not typically a house that we would actually set up an appointment to go see. I would just
you're reading the owner's mindset more than the actual condition out of this.
Well, gosh, that's a tough question. I would say sometimes, but not always.
Okay.
I would say not with those. And that's why we're able to like categorize it cold, warm, and hot, because those are like hard numbers, right? Like, I can't categorize cold, warm, or hot for motivation specifically. Like, we don't have like a cold, warm, or hot scale for motivation, because a lot of the motivation is tied to those 3 things that we just talked about, right? So if somebody's motivation is price motivated, it's going to come out in the condition and the price, right? So you're going to be able to tell. Where if someone was like, my motivation is we had a death in the family, and we've inherited the property, and it hasn't been taken care of in 2 years, that's going to come out in the condition, right? And so a lot of times, I would say mindset, I would say more motivation. I'm trying to see if I can answer this question. It's a tough question, because I think it's all no conversation is ever the same, right? Nobody's situation is ever the same. And so it's like putting all 4 of those together is going to be what comes up with, where you're at the end of that. I'm sorry, I totally didn't answer your question, but it's a tough
No,
question.
that's okay. I mean, I was just kind of trying to delve into the seller's thought process, since you've probably done it quite a few.
Yeah. And I'd say it's different for each one. Most of the time, like, you're going to be able to tell, like, through those conversations. So the way that I have my virtual assistants walk through these conversations is I always start with the condition first. I always have them start with the condition of the property, because it's factual data. It's not like, so price is sometimes based off of emotion, right? And so it's really easy for a seller. It's really easy for a virtual assistant to build rapport with a seller when they're just asking them to walk through their property, right? And so at that point, the virtual assistants can use a lot of rapport building techniques, like repeating back what they're saying, or just like, there's a lot of different other like sales and negotiation type techniques that they can use just through that portion. Then from there, that's when we'll ask them, like, well, why is now a good time to sell? So we'll go from condition to motivation to timeline, and then to price. That's how we do our calls: condition, motivation, timeline, and price. Because by the time we get to the price, and like a lot of that other stuff, we can now use the motivation, and we can use that, like, we can anchor back to some of the motivation when they're talking about price. But at that point, they kind of let their guard down, because we've built rapport with them up until that point. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. God. Oh, so yeah.
Do you have any keywords that would give you like a cold, medium, hot on the motivation side? I mean,
No,
you kind
we've
of just
tried-
mentioned it. Like, if someone's like, we just inherited this property, we don't want it. That's not like a key, like, or does the VA at least take notes on those things?
For sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Like, there's a motivation box where they're going to say, well, like, why are they selling? What's the motivation? But again, we've tried to classify cold, warm, or hot on those, and it's so abstract that, like, you can't. It's like so hard. Where the other ones are legit, like, numbers. Time frame is a number, right? A price is a number. Condition, the way that we frame it, is a number.
Right.
So motivation is really not, and so that's why we only have those 3.
Yeah, but that is very helpful too, because, I tried using Reva's like deal dialers, right? Is one of the things that they have where it's just, you don't know who the VA is, but they're just cold calling your lists or whatever. And definitely, I feel like if I had just some better criteria for them, the leads that I would have gotten back from them would have been so much more useful, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a great piece right there.
Yeah, awesome. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier. I've known this for 2 years.
You're keeping your secrets from me, JP.
No, you just don't invite me on enough. No, I'm joking.
No, that's great. Okay. And then I don't know, you know, obviously everyone jump in with questions whenever you want, like unmute and
Please.
jump in. If I've muted you, it's just because you were making too much noise. But I guess, so this is like a lot on the cold calling aspect, which is great. What other specific tasks do you outsource to VAs currently?
So all of our bookkeeping is outsourced to a VA. Understanding what it is that you want from a bookkeeping standpoint, whether, you know, we actually implemented a system called Profits First. Have you guys heard of the Profits First system for bookkeeping and accounting?
I haven't.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so write this down. Profits First by Mike McAllowitz. Good luck spelling the last name. I don't know. He actually calls himself Mike Motorbike because he knows that his last name
Somebody write it
is
down.
terrible. Huh?
Can
Yeah.
somebody write it down?
I wrote it down. I'll see if I can Google it and find the link real quick. I'll put it in the chat box.
Profits First. So Profits First by Mike McAllowitz is actually a Profits First for real estate entrepreneurs because it's a little bit different for us. Amazing concept, super simple. You know, it takes what we were doing, like what I previously learned, which was very hard to communicate to a bookkeeper. And then once I've read this Profits First book, I was like, oh, I can totally teach this to a bookkeeper. It is like the simplest form of accounting ever. And then at that point, the only thing you need is, you know, on QuickBooks Online, you can use tags for your different systems. So, or for your different properties. So bookkeeping is one of the things I would also get off of your plate. I can make a big recommendation for a bookkeeping company where their head bookkeeper is actually a Fortune Builder student, and she is an accountant as well. And so she's the one that does all of our books, and I've recommended her a million times, and I've heard nothing but great reviews. And so I can actually reach out to her and see if she's taking on any clients. And if she is, Marie, I can give that contact to you to share to your group.
Yeah, that would be great.
So again, that's one of the things, like I pay $200 a month and I don't have to worry about anything for my bookkeeping. I literally just make a group email in Google, accounts@anchoredhomes.com. I'm on it. My bookkeeper's on it. So anytime I like set up any type of bills for my rehabs, anytime I set up insurance, anytime I have a subscription to my website or my social media, like all those bills go to accounts. And so it's like, I've literally gotten all that off of my plate by just creating this group email where she takes care of that for $200 a month. It's like the best $200 I spend.
I think that's like half of what I pay my bookkeeper. So I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, it's legit. So that would be another task to get off your plate. And then so like now as we start, so think about all the different hats that you guys wear in your business. I would say most of us are probably solopreneurs, or we have a business partner like with our spouse or something like that. And so just think about like, as you're going through your business, what hat are you wearing? Right? So if I'm in a time block section of my day where I'm working on finding contractors because I need to build my team out, that's a redevelopment task. And so what's great about this is like, what I would recommend is maybe making like a spreadsheet where each tab is a department of your business. And then throughout the week or 2 weeks, when you are doing a task, think about what hat you're wearing. Like, what department hat are you wearing? Is this a redevelopments thing? Is this a marketing thing? Is this accounting thing? And then go into your spreadsheet and just like say, okay, I did this task under this business model, right? Actually, you know what? You guys probably all have access to, there's a document inside of the Fortune Builders Mastery program called the Ultimate 5 to 6 person company. Have you guys ever seen that?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, it's beautiful. So it's basically the cheat sheet to what I'm trying to teach you guys to do. It basically tells you all the different tasks and all the different departments, and like all of those tasks in that department on that sheet can all be outsourced. So you're asking me, what can you outsource? Refer to that sheet and outsource that entire document. So, but it's also a good exercise for you guys to go through and just document your day, document what you do, think about what department you're doing it for. And then also, if you can, I know this is probably a little extra, but document how much time it takes you to do it. And then understand that there's somebody probably more qualified to do that task for cheaper than $48 an hour.
Yeah.
So
that's
the one thing
great.
that you can't like Marie, like a lot of the stuff that you got, like content creation piece of what it is that you guys do, you guys can't replace that. Like that is what you guys do. And you guys are highly paid, are lowly paid actors, right? So, but nobody else can do that for your business. It's your personality, it's your brand, it's your message. And so think about all the other things that you do in your business that take away from you being able to just create content on a mass level, right? So what you said, you got your bookkeeping off your plate, but I mean, I think you understand the point I'm trying to make.
No, I appreciate that. And I will go back to that list because I know Liz and I actually looked at that recently because we were trying to divide, what's her roles and what's my roles, just with us being 2-person. But I think we looked at the bigger 5-6 person list and kind of broke down certain things, right? And we kind of did our hates and loves in the business to figure out where should I spend time and where should she spend time. And it was great. It was an eye opener for us to figure out, where we both like to be. But the other thing, I guess I would ask, so prior to Riva, because I know Riva does have like set pricing, were you paying a VA through like PayPal? Were you paying people hourly? I've heard of other people too that have a different model that are trying to bring in people and pay them commission based on how many leads they're bringing in and stuff like that. So I just kind of curious. Oh, and there's a child.
Ninja.
He's my little ninja. Just curious, any thoughts on that as far as payments or how to structure that? Any tips on that would be helpful to me. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, so a lot of the virtual assistants, depending on where you hire them, you have to pay them through that platform, right? So if you go to Upwork, you submit payment through Upwork. If somehow, some way you find like a virtual assistant through like maybe a Facebook group that somebody else is using, and I know that there's an international like pay called Payoneer. That's actually we've paid people. Have you heard of Payoneer? So that's typically accepted in most major countries outside of the US, but you can use it as a US based company. So that's typically how you would pay them. The platform anyway, Payoneer. And then as far as like how to pay them and what to structure, the way that we set it up in Anchored Homes, not necessarily for the like Filipino virtual assistants, but for the stateside virtual assistants, like the people that we found that were like in South Carolina or Idaho or New Jersey or somewhere, that we brought on to do acquisitions, and then my marketing team lead, and then my redevelopments team lead, and then all of that, like everything was a profit share system, right? And so I'm going to take a step back here, because in order for me to clearly explain like how we were able to implement this profit share, I think it's important to understand that we were very, very clear as a business on our core values, our mission statement, and our philosophy. So our business we had a culture in our business. And so what I would recommend to anybody, regardless if it's for virtual assistants or not, like I think that there's a lot of value in establishing the culture in your business and what you stand for and what you don't stand for, because as you start to bring people into your organization, this is something that they need to buy into, because where we went, and this is, so now that you kind of have the context, where we went with that, or the people that we brought in, we sold them on the culture. we sold them on the dream that we had to do 20 to 30 flips per year. So the volume that we were projecting was something that they could agree with. And I would say everybody on this call probably has a goal of at least one deal per year, right? And so I would imagine most people have, I mean, if you are trying to replace your income at $100,000, like that's at least 4 or 5 deals in almost any market. And so I would imagine that everybody here, when they have an elevator pitch or whatever that it is that they've worked on, they've got goals that they can pitch as a dream to somebody that they're bringing on. So now, as we're bringing on stateside virtual assistants, we are showing them the culture, we're pitching the dream, and then we're telling them like, hey, listen, so basically we do profit sharing. So every time we lock down a deal, nobody gets paid until everybody gets paid. So when we lock down a deal, everybody gets a little bit of commission. So, and I can share like how we paid some of our different departments. So on the acquisition side, so our main acquisitions person, or actually anybody who was on the phones that was doing the majority of talking to sellers, if it was a redevelopment, their commission was 15% of the projected or of the net profit. So they get 15% of the net profit. So if we lock down $100,000 profit, they get $15,000. And so what we did is we gave them half of that upfront. And then they got the other half when we actually settled up and we figured out what the true net profit was. If they lock down a wholesale, you guys might think I'm crazy, but I gave them 50% of the wholesale. That's motivation, right? 50% of a wholesale sounds really, really good. And so what ends up happening is if they buy into your culture and they buy into you and they buy into your dream, they're going to bust their ass to try to get these deals. And even more so, they're going to be like, how can we wholesale this? And I love wholesaling because it's like the least amount of time you can spend and make the most amount of money. $100,000 rehab profit sounds great, but a $30,000 wholesale with only 5 to 10, maybe 20 minutes of time spent on the phone with the seller and then being able to push it to somebody else sounds even better. Your cost per hour is way better. So that's why I always did the commission of 50%. I've heard a lot of people just do 15% across the board or 5% across the board, whatever works for you. So if it was a rental, then they got 15% of the cash flow, the net rent. So every month, if we brought in $220 in cash flow, they would get 15% of that for as long as they're with the business and as long as we own that property. So if we sell the property or they leave, then that obviously stops. So that was the acquisition side. Anybody who, like, we call them lead generators. So the people that put out our bandit signs, the people that do the car magnets, the people that do door hangers, anybody who's like boots on the ground out putting out marketing material, any deal that we get from what they're doing is $500. So they get paid $500. There's nothing in between. So they could put out 150 bandit signs. And if we don't get any deals off of that, they have to put out more. Like they only get paid if we get deals off of those signs. And so again, that's a lot of the culture, buying into the culture and the dream and all that. Like they just have a lot of trust when they come in and they experience that culture. So
I assume for that though, you're buying all the bandit signs, right?
Yeah.
You're
We buy all the
providing
marketing material. Yep. They just put everything out for us.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen some of your pictures of your guys with the magnets on their cars, and I'm like, dang, I gotta make some magnets and convince my friends to drive around with magnets on their cars.
That's like the easiest thing that you can convince somebody to do. I mean, as long as they don't mind a magnet. I mean, if you're going to tell them that they're going to make money off of the magnet, you know, they could potentially make $500 for everyone that texts and you guys lock down, then they're like, oh yeah, how many, can I put 3 magnets on there?
So for that, in that case, do you have different numbers or different texts?
Different keywords. Yep. So like text cash or text now or sell or whatever. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So then
each
you can
keyword
track
is tied to a specific, is
Okay.
tied to a specific driver.
That's smart. Are you tracking that in real flow? Like, are you using
Yep, it's all ran through Real Flow. Yep.
Yeah,
On Mobi.
cool. On Mobi, yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that's acquisitions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just telling Liz, we gotta do that. Gotta get the magnets made. with some
Yeah, and you don't
keywords.
even need to convince your friends. Just there's a whole rideshare community that's all they do is drive around all day carting people, and you can get those people to throw them on their car, and they can make an additional $500. You know,
Right, hit up the Uber drivers.
that's right.
I like
Or
it.
the Instacart people or whoever, right?
Yeah.
Well, although, yeah.
I
mean,
just
it's-
learned about Instacart, okay? This still blows me away. Liz is laughing at me. They were telling me, I was like, what? I can pay people to do my grocery shopping?
Oh yeah. Well, I've been trying to get my wife to do it, and she won't do it yet. She's like, no, I'm gonna go get all of our groceries. We're good. I want to try it.
It's
though.
amazing. I just wish they could put it away too. But now I'm really starting to have first world problems when they're going to shop and bring it to my house. And now I'm like, can you put it away too?
You're like, you open up the door, you're like, come on in. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fridge is over there. The fridge
Yeah,
is
exactly. No, you know what you do? You just walk up to there like a walker or something like that, and then like you open up your door so maybe they feel bad enough where they'll come. That's terrible. Don't do that. I don't even know why you would even think that. All right, so redevelopment.
I love you,
So,
John Paul. That's genius.
our redevelopments team. So we have our redevelopments team lead, or basically the project manager. They get 15% of the net profit of the deal. So again, they don't get paid until we all get paid. And what's great about this is when you put a project manager tied to the net profit, and then we also have incentives for them to finish like under budget and under time, as well as penalties if they go over budget or overtime because of their management of the project. And so we give them 15% of the net profit, and we've had to get really creative with our redevelopments people because they want to get paid on a weekly basis because they're managing this project through weeks and weeks and weeks. And so that was really fun to figure out. And so what we did is we basically said, so we'll take 7.5%, which is half of what the net profit is, and we're going to divide it over the number of weeks that this project is supposed to take. And then you can get a weekly check. You know, sometimes it was only $100 a week. Sometimes it was $500 a week, depending on how big the rehab budget was. So we take half of what the net profit or half, so 7.5% divided over 10 weeks, and then they'll get that every week. And then at the end of the project, they'll just get the other 7% once we've settled up and we figure out what the net profit is. Anything to avoid payroll. I did anything that I could to not have a W-2 employee, so that way I didn't have to have any type of workman's comp. So everything was profit share. So that's redevelopments. The marketing team. So basically the marketing team lead, they would make, now you got to understand, in my market, we were buying houses for 50,000 and selling them for 150,000. So these numbers worked where I'm at. So you would just have to adjust it to what makes sense where you're at. So my marketing team lead, who took care of all of my social media, my website, ran all of the lead generators that were boots on the ground, took care of all of my marketing reporting, did all my direct mail, generated all my lists, did everything on the marketing side of the house. So any of her efforts that created a deal that we locked down, she would get 0.5% of the purchase price. And then on the backside, because there's still tasks to be done on the backside with social media and website and marketing, she would get 1% of the sales price. Nope. Other way around. I'm so sorry. 1% of the purchase price, 0.5% of the sales price. I mixed that up. 1% of the purchase price, 0.5% of the sales price. Once we moved up from South Jersey to Central Jersey, and we were purchasing homes for 250,000 and selling for 600,000. The very first project that I didn't calculate her percentage for, I was like, Jessica, we've got a problem here. Where you were getting paid like $750 on the front end and like $1,250 on the back end. This is like a lot of money that we're going to have to pay you 0.5% and then 1% on the back end, or 1% on the front end and 0.5% on the back end. I was like almost $7,000 in some cases. And I'm like, So it's got to be fair and this is like the conversation that we have with everybody is like, hey, this is just where we're at right now. We can always figure out what's going to work. We can run through 1, 2, or 3 projects. And if it's fair for the company and fair for you, then we're good. If not, we'll make adjustments. So we always put that out there whenever we're bringing people on. And so that was one of those cases where I was talking to my marketing team lead and I'm like, hey, this, with these new price points, we're going to have to come up with a different number when we're doing deals in this market. And so we ended up just coming up with a flat fee. So it was $750 on the front end for all properties and $1,250 on the back end for all properties. So it ended up being, at $2,000 per deal for that. So now going back to what I said at the beginning of the webinar, where I said I gave up 90% of what I was doing for about 45% of the profit on every single deal. And that's what all that adds up to. When you bring people on to do all that and you're doing profit sharing, it's about 45% of the profit goes to all of those people and you get 90% of the tasks off of your plate.
Hey, JP, I heard you say that you really didn't like payroll. At one point, I did audit unemployment tax. The biggest thing there is to watch control. If you control people too much and they do an audit, they're going to be your employees, whether you're paying them as a contractor or not.
Yeah, and that's great point that you brought up, because that was actually something that we talked to our tax accountant about and our attorney, and we said, hey, how do we? Because I'm telling you, like, I get hives when I think about payroll.
It's kind of hard to explain unless you do a lot of unemployment. But the ultimate thing to make sure it's not an employee would be, well, if you can find somebody that does similar or the same tasks for other people they're doing for you, and or owns their own business while they're doing it, contractor, no problem.
Yep, absolutely. And that's exactly what we did, is we always made sure that they were either doing that work for somebody else, or we showed them through our education how to create their own entity and then bill us for their time. So there's ways around it. And I would say each state is different. I mean, I know the IRS has a code, but each state also has regulations as well that people need to be aware of. So.
I did it in Arizona, but there are some differences, but pretty much throughout all 50, it's control.
Yep. That's great. So Marie, did I answer your question about like how to pay, like what platform?
Yeah, you answered it. And then, I mean, that was a lot of detail. I just took a lot of notes on all those different things, but dang, JP, every time I have you on here, it's just, you're so knowledgeable. There's so much good information. So I really appreciate it. And you're like clear and concise and, not all over the place. So I just love you so much. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you very much. Again, I'm just sharing my journey, right? Like all the aha moments, the failures, like the things that worked, the things that didn't work. And
that's what I love about it too, is because I mean, you're just like basically opening your books and saying, this is exactly how it's worked for me, and not everyone is always so forthcoming and just they're sharing their knowledge and all of their experiences, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Those people that are worried that you're gonna steal all their thunder, and it's like, listen, I don't want to do deals in South Jersey, so I'm not.
Well, even if you did, there's plenty to go around, so don't worry.
Exactly. So I don't know, does anybody else have any other questions? I mean, that was a lot of info. I know I'm gonna have to rewatch this just to catch it all. Yeah, Melissa's agreeing. She's like, yep, I'm gonna have to rewatch.
That is like drinking water from a fire hose.
Oh man, I feel bad. I should have not laid down so much info. My bad.
No, it's good. We can always go back and listen to it.
Well, I hope that through all of the information that at least, you don't leave this call feeling so overwhelmed that you don't know where to start. Like, hopefully you could take one or two things and implement them coming out of this call, whether it's reaching out to Riva Global and seeing they're a good fit for you, or I am going to scan in this VA document hiring process that I went through that I can share with you guys. And whether it's doing that to figure out like how to hire your first VA or something like that. Like, so hopefully the goal is you know, when you guys leave here, that you're like, okay, I'm definitely figuring out what tasks, and I'm making my departments, or I'm talking to this person, you know?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too to take away from it is that it didn't work the first time, right? Like you had your learning curve, and just, you know, the fear of, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'll have enough work for them, or am I going to waste money, or am I going to do, you know what, you probably are going to waste a little money in the beginning if you don't know exactly what you want them to do. And there's a learning curve, right? But that can't stop you from just going ahead and doing it, because at the end of the day, if you want to like scale up, you have to be able to outsource these things and learn that skill, right? Become that manager. So I know for me, that's one of my biggest takeaways is sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't want to waste this time, or how am I going to teach this person? But even just the way you started, you know, just turn on the microphone and just record what you're saying, or put yourself in your own little Zoom call and just record where you're clicking, and be able to use that to just train them. I mean, that, like I said in the beginning, was kind of golden for me. So
Is Zoom, in order to be able to record yourself, do you have to pay for Zoom to do that?
no,
It's free?
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. And so you can just go, and then for Zoom, there's unlimited, as long as like there's only one other person in the room. So I know even for some of our videos that Liz and I have done, we've literally, like, I've sat in one room, she's sat in a conference room, and we've just been there together, but then put a like PowerPoint presentation on the screen and acted as if we were talking to a room full of people in a Zoom call, but it was just me and Liz presenting
Oh, that's
stuff.
awesome.
So we've done that for some of the videos that are actually on our website. So Zoom is a great tool for that. And especially because you can just share your screen, right? So I think in this instance, like, you can just put yourself in a Zoom call, record it, and you can be sharing your screen and talking and literally showing a VA step by step, this is what I do, or this is how I do it.
Yeah, for sure. And if I had to like give myself advice again at the younger version of me as an entrepreneur, I would say that marketing would be the main thing to concentrate, to get off of your plate and to a VA. I mean, anybody can send a text through these platforms. You know, there's more qualified people to do the cold calls than you, that can do it faster, better, that don't get all, you know, antsy in their pantsy when they're thinking about talking to a seller. I remember those times, like the phone. I remember like the first time I put my bandit signs out and the phone rang, I'm like, I'm not answering that. You know, like I pay for all this marketing, and then the phone rings and I'm like, I was so nervous. And so that, like, so when you're outsourcing that, like, they don't have those nerves. And that's what I'm saying. Like, they're more qualified. They've been through so many more seller calls, and they've been through all the objections, and they've been through, you know what I mean? So it's like, they're just way more qualified, and you can just do something. You could literally sit back and say, okay, you know, they sent me 2 or 3 leads today. And then you can go through the ones that are a cold, warm, or hot lead, however you're going to triage that. So that's what I would say. Just like, even if it's through RealFlow, here's the beautiful thing is most people here probably have RealFlow. And so you have unlimited leads that you can download through Lead Pipes Premium. You know, and so that's how we keep our VAs busy. I'm constantly pulling lists of 5,000 from Lead Pipes, using different types of filters, skip tracing it and sending it over, so that way they can text and cold call. And that's really like the main thing. That, again, I have a texting VA, cold calling VA, and then a VA that runs all of our for sale by owner outbound stuff. So that's what I would say. Just concentrate on getting all that marketing off of your, like, up and running, and then off of your plate.
Yeah. That's awesome.
What was your trigger where you decided that you had to get a VA? You're just not able to do it anymore?
It wasn't actually a trigger. It was a mindset shift that I had. Whenever I went through my first internet marketing, it was like that 3rd month I was in the coaching program, and Bob McIntosh, I don't know if any of you guys have met Bob McIntosh, but he was the coach and the speaker that was up on stage, and just like what he said resonated with me, you know, like the idea. And then, you know, listening to the story of like Paul Conrad and all them, and like how they, I just wanted to replicate what they had done because they were so successful with it. And they were talking about getting all those tasks off their plate. And then I listened to Bob talk about, the different types of marketing things that you can get off your plate. And so like, it just resonated with me and I just pulled the trigger. Social media was the first one. Craigslist was the second one. And then, from there, it's just been, I've had several different ones.
Okay.
So what do you think is going to be the trigger for you, Gail?
I'm just running out of time to do everything myself. It's getting kind of crazy. And
what's the first thing that you push off when you don't have time? Like if you realize you don't have time, what's the first thing that goes to the back burner?
Well, unfortunately, right now it's marketing, which is the exact wrong thing.
Exactly. And you're not alone. That's most entrepreneurs. That's exactly the first thing that goes to the back. That or bookkeeping.
Yeah. I mean, right now I have a house that I'm trying to get done and get ready to sell. So that's kind of taken priority over a lot of other things because my money's tied up in that. I need my money back out.
Yeah. Great question.
Yeah. So awesome. We're getting, Kelvin, did you want to say something?
Hey, no, it was great call. I can't wait to listen to it again. And just had some really, really good input. But I do have one question. For as skip tracing, who do you use for skip tracing, sir?
Oh, so now that he was late to the call.
Yeah, I was.
It's on your shirt. Just.
Oh yeah, it is. I didn't even realize these are my PJs. I didn't even realize.
He's wearing his best skip tracer shirt right there.
I actually
Kelvin,
own a skip tracing company.
I posted the link to his skip tracing company that I am an affiliate of. So if you press on my link, you will get, what is it? Half price?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good deal.
Yeah. So
I posted it in the weekly.
But you have to use Marie's link because if you just go straight to the website, you're going to pay full price. If you use Marie's link, you'll get half off your first month subscription.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah, so I posted it in the weekly Huddle Facebook group. I posted.
Who do you use for skip tracing? Right. Just curious.
Let's see. I've used PropStream, and this last time I did a batch.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Paul, what do you think? Sorry, what do you think of the skip tracing within RealFlow?
I was just about to say, I'm so happy that he said that and not RealFlow because the skip tracing inside of RealFlow is by far the worst I've ever seen. So I would say do not use RealFlow skip tracing. You get one contact back. And if it's not a name, like a personal name, like if it's an LLC or trust, you don't get anything back from them. They can't do any of that. So I would definitely avoid RealFlow skip tracing at all costs.
Yeah, Kelvin, I do use his best skip tracer company, and it is by far the best that I've seen.
Well, and here I'll just if I can make one little plug about best skip tracer, and I'll just tell you like what sets us apart is that all of those other skip tracing companies are literally just taking lists and running it through national databases. It's all computerized. Like they run it through national databases. If your names match up to whatever's in the national database, then you get a return back. Ours are all hand scrubbed. We have a team literally going through every column and hand scrubbing your list through all the same databases that all those other guys use. And we have additional databases. And so if your name comes up and it doesn't exactly match what's in the database, we actually go through and we'll go a layer deeper and we're saying, there's got to be contact information. So we're scrubbing against multiple databases. And that's why we can come up with our hit rates are higher. Our data is more accurate. If I do say so myself.
Good deal.
What's your full rate on month 2 when the 50% off runs out?
So there's 3 different subscriptions. You can do free, you can do premium, which is $9 a month, and then you can do VIP, which is $97 a month. And I would say free is like, I would never recommend anybody do free, but there are people out there that want to try our service before fully committing, which is why we created that. And then if you're going to be skip tracing more than 3,000 leads per month, That's kind of where that cost, where if you were to go up to the premium, you're going to save more money on your overall expense for skip tracing. If you're skip tracing more than 3,000 leads per month, go to the VIP. If you're under 3,000 leads, then the premium is perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So we're approaching 8 o'clock. Liz is about to turn into a pumpkin. I literally can watch Liz from like 7 to 8. I just see her fade. And John Paul, what time is it for you right now?
It is 10:52.
Okay, so it is 10:52. Liz had a smile on her face at 7, but as 7:30 approached, Liz is like,
Well, I'm sure her dinner's setting
I'm
in.
still taking notes. And then by 7:45, Liz is literally looking at the screen like, Marie, is this call gonna end?
Oh my gosh,
I
I'm
got
totally
up
seeing
at
it now that you
this
say that.
morning.
I get up at 4 a.m. So I turn into a pumpkin. And my daughter's texting me, when are you going to be done? And I said, like 30 minutes. She's like, I said, is that okay? And she said, I suppose. And I go, what does that mean? She's like, I was kidding.
Get up at 4 too.
I know. So I just get tired.
Mm.
Yeah.
So JP, it's awesome though. I mean, I'm going to have to rewatch it. And I hope that Marie took really good notes because my son called me in the middle of it. And my daughter was trying to reach me. So
Yeah.
if all right, actually, let me write it down. So lead criteria, I'll actually, because I coach on a regular basis, this is all stuff that I coach on. I have these in note form that I can send to you.
Okay.
I'm just going to write down what I talked about because I definitely went off script a little bit, as if there was a script. There wasn't really a script.
No.
It was awesome though. They covered a lot.
Yes, it's so valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yep.
Yeah.
That to me
Awesome.
is the toughest part, is getting started with some of this. It's like, what does it all entail and what do you all need? That's my biggest hang up. I'll be honest with you. And being an analytical kind of person, it's like, did I capture everything? Is there something else out there that I don't know? Because
Right. So
There's a
now,
million things, Melissa,
Yes.
all the time.
yes,
There's
that's the
never
one
going to
thing.
be
Don't fall into
everything.
that trap. Exactly. Don't
Yeah,
fall
you
into
just
that
got
trap.
to do something. And it's
Well,
who
and
you
that's-
talk to. Marie and I are going to have a call on Wednesday with a kid that I know. He just graduated from high school. We vacation with him every summer in the winter. And he's like, oh, Liz, he's really hyper. I really want to get into real estate. I really love it. And he starts rattling off stuff that I was like, okay, Zach, you do know some stuff. And I was like, dude, I think you could work for us because you're going to go off to college and you need a little bit of time. So we're going to have a call and see how he can work into our system. So just in hearing what JP was talking about today, it's like, if he doesn't have to do it all, we can give him one task that he could be in charge of and see how he does with that and then go from there. But it's just that now it's like, oh my God, it could be my daughter. I can give her one task of posting this or doing that, and not on all things. You're only going to be Instagram. Do this on Instagram for me. That's all. And then like just the driving around with my kids all have cars that I partially pay for or all of pay for. Guess what? It's going to go in your car. I don't care.
Well, that's part of what I've been hearing people say is you either take a VA part-time or full-time, and part-time is like 20 hours. And I know some people have said that they've partnered up with other people because they don't have 20 hours worth of work to give to a VA. And unless you have that amount of time, a VA won't work with you or work for you. So that's,
if you're trying to flip 4 or 5 houses a year, you have 20 hours of work that you can give to a VA.
okay.
I can promise you that.
Yeah, Melissa, that was my concern as well. When I started with the VA, I thought, wow, what am I going to have her do for 20 hours that you're paying? Because it's only part-time I pay as well. But you know what? That is consistently all she does. The whole 20 hours every week is just the cold calling. That's all she does.
Yep.
cold calling.
And-
And as long as she's got the lists to do, that's her job. So, I mean,
That's the other
I-
side of the coin
Have
with
you-
not
have
being very
any-
proficient with computers. I don't know how to send this over or how to retrieve it back.
You'll learn. It's one foot in front of the other. You don't have to worry about getting all the way through the fog. Just take that next step and you'll figure it out. I promise you. Like, they're going to say, hey, send me the list. You're going to be like, how do I send a list? Hey, can somebody show me how to send a list around here? Oh, okay, awesome. And then you'll figure it out. I promise you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa, I have to tell you, I mean, I know some stuff. I know a good amount of stuff, but Maria's constantly still teaching me something or showing me something because I'm not used to Google Drive, really. And so she's constantly, forcing me to do that. And so even if I have to ask her a second time, but it does. I mean, okay, what do you want again, or how, or whatever. By the way, you got to load my 3 videos onto YouTube, Marie. That
But you didn't send them. You didn't send them to me yet. You
No,
only sent
he
them
just-
into TRC.
He replied back to me and said, put them on YouTube. And I was like, oh, that's a Marie task.
Yeah, that's my job.
I know.
Nice
So,
job outsourcing, Liz.
yeah, that's okay. She does it right back and it's good. It's all fair. So I get it, Melissa, but don't let those things stop you. Seriously. And I know it's easier said than done. And it's easier now because I have her to bounce something off of or get with her. But I
Yeah.
think that's too what the team of people can do within even this huddle or the Fortune Builder group or somebody. Just ask a quick question and you'll get more answers sometimes than you want. But it's true.
All right.
So-
Well, we are approaching our deadline here. So I
Gotta
will.
put your kids.
I do have to put my kids to bed. And I want to say again, thank you, John Paul, so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for
Yeah, I
staying
know.
up.